Welcome back to part 7 of the tutorial of rebuilding the ticket, the adventure that came in the PAWS manual using DAAD Builder. This is the final part of the tutorial. The next section of the manual goes on to talk about the graphic editors and adding graphics to your adventure, which is something that's beyond DAAD Builder at the moment. We'll look at the do-it-yourself section and look at the 6 different exercises they have for us to flesh out the adventure a bit more. Some of this we've covered slightly, as in the first one, which is to respond to all objects. So let's just have a look through what they are. First one, examine should respond to all objects, even if we have a general reply, such as, I see nothing special about the... And this is hint, so as not to use the use of look on its own, you could use condition lower than 34255 before triggering it. 34 is the flag which holds the current noun. If that is empty, it'll have the value of 255. This was a correction I needed to make in my interpreter because we were actually setting it to 0 if we didn't have a noun. It's now set to 255. So if that is empty, this condition won't trigger and it'll drop through to the normal look. So let's see how we would implement that. I'm going to do this in the actual text editor this time. We've done most of our work in the process editor, but a lot of people will be more comfortable using the text editor. So let's have a look. If we jump down to process 5, we want to go down quite near the end to where the built-in template conditions are. So auto drop will be the last one. So we want to put in a new entry just after our drop sandwich entry. So we'll put that in, and then we're going to have examine and an underscore. We want that empty. So our previous examine messages should have prevented us guessing here if we've actually got examine messages. If not, we're going to drop through to here. So we want lower than, and we want the flag 34 255. And then we want a message. Let's leave this. Let's create a new system message to use. Let's go to the bottom. We're going to add a system message, and it says we could say something like, I see nothing special about the... We're actually going to say exactly that. We're going to copy and paste that across. So this is system message 63 actually. And we want to use that new one we created, which I think was 64, but I will go and check because I'm not 100% sure I'm right on that. It was 63. I was wrong, so let's jump back to that section. It's 63 and we're done. Okay. That's that one in place. Second one says, the bird should really fly away if you get sandwich while the bird is present, i.e. it would be pecking at the sandwich and any normal bird would fly. So we need a get sandwich entry, and we're going to put that right near the top so the auto get doesn't run beforehand. So just under our auto generated examination messages, we're going to put in a new one saying get sandwich. So here we now want to check the sandwich is present. We can't get it if it isn't here. Object sandwich. We want to check the bird is here, otherwise it's not going to bother telling anyone about the bird flying away. So it's a flag, isn't it, not a location. Bird location is the same as the player location. If so, we want a message to say something like the bird is scared away by you reaching for the sandwich. Okay. So the sandwich is present, the bird is present. Tell them the bird is scared away. We then need to actually scare the bird away, so we need to let bird location equal, and when the bird flies between the bandstand and the branch of the tree, we know if the sandwich is present that we're actually at the bandstand, because if we drop the sandwich in the tree it falls to the ground. So we want to let the bird location equal up tree, and then we just need to reset the flag that we decrement to say the bird is ready to fly. We need to reset that to 3, and I'm not going to say done. I'm going to leave that here because then it will drop through to the auto get and actually get the sandwich as well and tell us that we've got the sandwich. So I think that is fine for that one. I'm going to say that's 2 done. 3, untie and tie should have a message, something along the lines of tie what to what. Not done was an easy cop out. So we want a message, and we want that to say tie what to what with a question mark, and this time round we're going to say done. And then we also want one for untie, so we're going to change that there to be message untie what from what, and we want a done. Okay, so that one is 3 off the list. Number 4, how might you deal with the player typing put object in bag when the bag is not present? At the moment the game will drop the objects instead. Why? Well, the reason why is because put and drop are the same word in the vocabulary list, so it will fail our put in bag, and so it will go through to the next entry, which is drop, and we'll drop the object. So we need to stop that happening. Let's go down where we were before the auto messages. So this is the one we should actually fire that we don't want. So we go above that, and let's put in a new one here. And so we want to say put, it could be any object. We want a preposition of in, and then we want our objects, a noun to, and we want that to be bag. Message to say the bag is not here. And done. Now I haven't done a check for the bag. If we check for the bag being present, we would say present. That doesn't actually have a not present option, so we'd have to check if it was carried, and we'd also have to check if it's at the same location as the player, but we can only check for one of those. So we'd actually have to put in several entries for trying to do the same thing. We know already if we try to put something in the bag is present, we succeed. So if that has failed, it's now going to drop through and pick up this entry instead. So I think for me that's good enough to say this one is done. Number 5. Nothing was ever done with the torch. The following entries will allow it to be turned on and off. You'll also need turn as a verb in the vocabulary. Let's do it. So let's add word to the vocabulary. We want to add the word turn, and we want that to be a verb, and we're going to add that to the vocabulary. And actually I think we're going to have one more at the same time because there's a section talking about climbing as well. So let's just add one more verb saying climb, to say we was doing that later. Okay, back to the text editor. Let's deal with turning that torch on and off. So let's jump down to section 5. After the auto examine messages, we're going to put in a new one saying turn torch, and then we need a preposition of on. We then need to check which torch we have. So we have two. We have a lit torch and an unlit torch. We need to check if we're carried. No, not carried, because we may just be on the floor. So we just want a present L unlit torch, not L object unlit torch. So if that is present, we should be able to turn it on. To turn it on, we want to swap O unlit torch for O lit torch. So that will change the location of those two torches, making the unlit torch not created and the lit torch now in the same position that torch is in when we run this. And then we want a message to say you turn the torch on, and done. Now we want a similar one to turn it off, so let's copy and paste that one there. We have turn torch, this is now going to be off. We want to check the lit torch is present. We want to swap the, should work anyway, but let's just for correctness sake say swap the lit torch for the unlit torch, and message saying we turn the torch off. Okay, so that's done. That now will swap between those two torches. So the next section in 5 says look up the extra contacts in the technical manual. Read the chapter on light and dark. Perhaps a cellar could be created below the bandstand. The movement would have to be checked in the response table with an entry such as, assuming 9 is the new location, down at 5, player on bandstand, set O, which is the flag for darkness, go to 9 and describe. This has actually changed slightly since PAWS. So desk now takes a value at the end of it, which is the value of the location you want to describe. So we could move to 9 and put describe 1, and it would actually give us the description for location number 1. I'm not going to use desk here. I'm going to replace that with restart, which will just go back to the beginning, and as if we'd moved to a new room, the same way that would happen if we used move. We can't use move here because move checks as an actual connection between the rooms we're trying to move to, and there won't be one because we're handling this just in code. So we have to use go to instead. Having said all of that, let's go to the visual editor and create our new room, which is going to go there. We're going to call the new room cellar, not with that many L's. We're going to call new room cellar, and we're going to use a define for that. This room isn't connected to anything else. I'm going to drag it over there. We're not going to tick the dark option here because that just turns a dark flag on, which is kind of what we want, but we don't have much control over turning that off again. See, we've got one more warning now added at the top of the screen. That's because we've added a new location that has no exits. Location 1 has no exits. We know that shouldn't have, because that's where we put all the objects that go in the bag, and location 0 has no exits because that's our intro screen. So let's go across now to, we've created the room. We're not adding any connections to it. We're going to do that all in code. So let's go back to our text editor, and we're going to jump back down to section 5. Under the auto examine section, we're going to have a down, and we're going to go down. So if the player is at location bandstand, what do we want to do? We want to set the dark flag. So we want set, and we want 0. So we set 0. We now need to go to our new location, which is the cellar, and we're not going to do describe, we're going to do restart. Okay, we also need to come back up from the cellar, so we want an up. We want to check that we're at the cellar, and we now need to clear that dark flag. We need to go to the bandstand, and we need to restart. Okay, I think that should cover all of those sections. Not forgetting an up entry which clears the flag, which we've just done. So we have one more entry here, which is what happens if the player types climb tree or climb up tree. What is the best way to check for this? Hint, there is only one place you can climb at that location. So we could, got two options. We could go in vocabulary, we could put the word climb in, which we did just now, and we could make that the same value as up. So if they say up, it's the same thing as climb. In this case, we're just going to add in new entry here saying climb. Going to leave that blank saying try to climb anything. We want to check that we're at, the location was by tree, so we're by the tree. In that case, we want to do the same things we've just done for the cellar. We want to go to, in this case, location up tree, and then we want to restart. Okay, so that should work now. With a by the tree, we should be able to climb that tree. Okay, now it's time to test the adventure and see whether those exercises worked. So we start at the beginning. First thing we want to see is, can we put an object in the bag if the bag isn't present? So let's go west, and we will try to put apple in bag. Now this should just drop the apple previously. Now it actually tells us the bag is not here, which is what we want. So let's go back east, and we'll try put apple in bag. Apple is in the bag. Okay, so that one works correctly. get apple bag is not going to work. Get apple out of bag gives us the apple. So now we want to try tie dog to bag. Tie what to what, which is the message we wanted to have. So that is good. That's 3 is complete. Examine should respond to all objects, even with a general reply. Trouble is, we have given all of the objects an auto-examine message. The only thing we can try to examine is a dog, but we're going to get a strange error here. And this actually happens in the proper DAAD interpreters as well. So if I try examine dog, it's going to come back and say, I see nothing special, which is our message, but it says about the pocket torch lit. So it's giving us the description of object 0. And the reason for that is that dog is not an object in the game. So the catch-all message we have created drops down to a default response, which is to find the first object in the game and give us that response for that. If we'd created an object in this area, let's go and jump back over to our object here. So let's go to the first location, which is where we were, and we're going to add a proper object this time, which is rock. Use that as a define. We're going to call that rock. This message is a rock. It's a proper item. We're going to add that. Just check that the vocabulary is up to date with that message. That's all in sync. That's good. So let's go back to test adventure. Any key to continue. And we now have a rock here, and we haven't gotten it. We probably have got an examine message for the rock. So let's go back to objects, because I think that auto generates. We want to take that out so we don't have an automatic message. Test adventure. And we now want to examine the rock. Now we haven't got an automatic message for this, and it should come back with, I see nothing special about the rock, which is exactly what we want. So that is good. That is working. What else did we have? Tie, untie. How do you put a message about putting things in the bag? That's fine. The sandwich one, possibly we need to find if we're at the same location as the bird at the same time. Can we turn the torch on and off? Turn torch on. We turn the torch on, turn torch off, turn torch off. Okay, so let's go and see if we can go down in that cellar. Torch should be off. So down to go into the cellar. And it says it's too dark to see anything. We can somehow see the dog is wagging his tail. I'm not quite sure why we would see that. We probably, with that message we put in, we'd have to do a check for being dark or not to hide that. So let's turn torch on and do a look. And we now says we're room 9. We never put a description in for that cellar. Let's jump across and just correct that. Room 9. The cellar is dark and dank. Okay, jump back over to test adventure. We want to go west. We want to go north. We want to go, we're on the bandstand. We want to go down. It's too dark. Turn the torch on. And we will look. And we get told the cellar is dark and dank. So that is good. That's exactly what we want. And can we go back up from the cellar? We can, and we're back to the bandstand. What happens if we drop the sandwich? So the bird sees the dog and flutters away. It actually has dropped the ticket to peck at the sandwich. Probably would need to put in a few more checks here for these things happening at the wrong time. Get sandwich. The bird should already have gone. Nope, the bird is scared by you reaching for the sandwich. You now have the sandwich. So bird hasn't actually fluttered away when it sees the dog. So that's something we have to go back in the code and check. But our reaching for the sandwich has scared the bird away, so that is good. Last one was climbing the tree. So let's go south. And we will go west. And we're by the tree, so if we enter climb tree, we're now up in the branch. That all of those have worked correctly. There's a slight inconsistency with the bird saying it's flown away and it's actually there to eat the sandwich. That's something we probably need to look at in our code. For a final check, we will just download this and try it in a proper interpreter and see whether we actually can write something in DAAD and then use it in a proper DAAD interpreter. Well, the good news is that downloaded and worked absolutely fine. So let's test our adventure. Let's see whether we can put the apple in the bag. Okay, let's get the bag. Go west, we go north. Let's just do a look and a look. Okay, the bird is here. The bird sees the dog and flutters away. If I drop the sandwich, the bird sees the dog, flutters away quickly, and it drops the ticket to peck at the sandwich. If I get the sandwich, the bird is scared by you reaching for the sandwich. I now have the sandwich. So the good news is then it's not a problem in our interpreter in DAAD Builder. It's actually a logic error in the code in the DSF file. So that is something to look at. Maybe one more video to have a look at bug fixing that. But this is all working quite well. So if we go down from here, too dark to see anything. We also see the dog follows wagging his tail. So again, that is a issue in the actual coding logic for the game. If I turn torch on, you turn the torch on. What I really should do here in the DSF file is turn the torch on and do a restart there, which should actually then re-show us the room and tell us that the room is bright and light and we can see what we're doing. 1 second, let's go back to our editor and see what happens if we do that. So let's go back to here, back to our text editor. We want to jump down to section 5 and we want to turn that torch on and off. So let's not say done now, let's say restart, and we're going to do the same again for that one. Because we're in a dark room, we turn the torch off. We want it to actually go dark. And test adventure, any key to continue. We go west, we go north, we go down. Too dark to see anything. Now we turn torch on, restarts, and now we see the location we're at. If we turn the torch off, it tells us it's too dark to see anything. So that works quite well. I think that's just about it for this series. I might do one more checking the logic in the file as to why the bird says it's flown away but doesn't actually appear to have flown away. One more quick thing to look at. Done a tiny bit of work to the music editor. So now we have the ability to add a name to the track here and then be able to save that, and we have a library here of the ones we saved. So we can load from the library into our editor. we can also now, in the process editor, we can add the XPlay contact, and then we can, if we want to, we can create and add a string directly in of an MML file, or we can choose from the ones that we stored in our library, and we can check we've got the right one by pressing play. So by pressing play, we'll get a chance to check the file we've just chosen, make sure it's one that we've stored. So if you have the same piece of music you want to play several times throughout the game, having it in the store, being able to reuse it here, makes things a great deal quicker. So that is it for this video. I will see you in the next one.